was going to say prejudice in Judaism, because I think that the Jewish history and the Black history is pretty similar. We've all been enslaved. We've all been
persecuted.
We've been kicked around from place to place. I mean, and I get the feeling that the Jews will acknowledge this, but they will, and I hope I don't know. Maybe somehow in some people's mind, they think that, I know we have the same history, we've been through some of the same things, but ours was a little bit more superior. I don't get it. I really don't get, why would a Jewish person be prejudiced? I can't get it, because I mean, I work with different people and I hear the way people speak of Jews even now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, I'm there as a Black person. It's not my turn yet. And maybe when I leave, my turn comes up. But I hear the way people speak of Jews. I mean, it's just bad. You know what I mean?
No, so right.
I'm thinking of all the people who should never be prejudiced. I'm not saying you should bring everybody to your home. I'm not saying you should, but I don't get it. I don't see how Jewish people can be prejudiced.
Right, it's human nature. It says in the Torah that we should not make fun or persecute the stranger because you yourselves were strangers in a foreign land. The Torah says that over and over and over again. We have, as human beings, we like to be tribal. We like to say them and us. We like to affiliate with something bigger than ourselves. But what the Torah is inspiring us to do is to be able to divest of any hate whatsoever. And the Torah is calling on us to do that. The Torah recognizes our failings as human beings, our imperfections and our struggles. And what we're talking about here today on this racial prejudice in the Jewish community live feed on facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. That's facebook.com/Jewish Gardens. What we're talking about is the 3 vital tools to healing our hurting world, which we've spoken about 2 of them. And in our last few moments over here, I would just like to address the third. The third one is, in addition to the moment of silence, and in addition to
created in the image of God,
recognizing the image of God within everybody, and having that basic respect to greet and to speak to every other person with respect. The third and final of the vital tools is to recognize that hate doesn't just go away. You don't just take away darkness. You've got to replace it with a greater light. And as a society, we've gone so far in evolving technologically and medically and scientifically, and in our transportation and our innovation. In every segment of humanity, we've progressed since the Middle Ages, except for one where we've regressed. And that is our relationship with God. It used to be that we were able to talk about God and we were comfortable talking about God. But today, heaven help us. Today it's considered so primitive, it's considered unnecessary. God is redundant. And when we remove God from our conversations, when we remove God from our public schools and from our streets and from our families and from our lives, when we exile God into the houses of worship and into the religion section of the library, we're leaving the rest of our lives exposed and vulnerable. Just like as human beings, we need air and water and food in order to survive. For values, we need to be able to welcome God back into our conversation. This is something that our founding fathers understood very, very well. One nation under God.
We cannot be one nation if we are not under God.
That's so well said, honey. No, we cannot be one nation unless we're under God, because why else are we one nation? It's only because God. It's so beautiful. I never thought of it that way, you know? It's one nation because we're under God. And if you delete God from the sentence, then you've also deleted the one nation. You're not really a nation. You're a fragmented survival of the fittest kind of situation.
And I think that's incredibly important to remember. It's very important to remember. It's easy to put people in a box. And every one of us could be in a box because we each have we're all different. And that's what makes us special, right? Being different. Every single person is different. We need to remember that we are one. Our differences shouldn't separate us. Our differences should unite us. And we should realize that we are really just under one big umbrella
Mhm.
God.
We cannot rob our kids of the gift of God. You know, we can't expect our kids to be decent, honest, and upright if we've robbed them of values, of accountability, of being able to recognize a higher purpose and a higher power. Without God, it's just, you know, dog eat dog. It's the survival of the fittest. But when we have the courage and the moral fortitude to reintroduce God back into our lives and to realize that God is not a religious value, God is a fact,
reality.
is a reality.
Yeah.
God is a fact of life. God is not a religious value. You can believe in the houses of worship. God is a fact of life. If we remove that foundation, that founding principle from our conversation, from our schools, from our dining rooms, from our workplaces, then what we're left with is chaos, and that we're left with anarchy. And with that, we're running out of time. So just to sum up over here, our 3 vital tools for healing our hurting world. Number 1, we said we've got to have the moment of silence. The moment of silence to recognize that we are here for a higher purpose. There's an eye that is watching us. There is an ear that is hearing us. There's something that cares, a higher power. Ask your parents what those values are that you believe in. But as long as we're accountable to a higher power.
Speak to your children about those values that you believe in.
That's one practical thing you can do to heal a hurting world, is to exercise a moment of silence around your kitchen table. A second practical thing that you can do is to exercise respect. To make the effort to greet every single person, to talk to the mailman, to talk to the milkman. Do we still have milkmans today?
No, we don't.
You know,
we have Amazon drivers.
Yeah, FedEx drivers, right? To talk to them.
Get to know them.
Thank them. Ask them how their day is going. See them as human beings by recognizing that they're created in the image of God. And finally, the third vital tool to healing our hurting world is to have the courage to reintroduce the G word, the God word, into our conversation, to recognize that we are here for a purpose. Nothing is random. Everything has value. And when we can introduce that God into our lives, it's then that we can have values. It's then that we can have principles. Then we can exercise justice and true justice and true peace by being able to serve the creator of the universe with the instruction manual through which this world was created. Thank you for watching. Click subscribe so we can stay connected, and click here to watch the next clip.